We are going to talk this morning about the common areas, and right now we are in the living space area. This is an open concept home. Again, we're in Laquita's home for the second day. So thank you for Laquita for graciously allowing us to be in your home today.
I'm glad.
Izzy?
I'm glad to be of service. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. So we had spoke earlier. Yesterday we did some training videos and we talked about the size of the house. It is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house. We are in the common areas right now, like I said. So this is the living room. There is another dining room and then like a small hallway. So I'm gonna walk around. I'm gonna show you the things that we use in this area and give you some tips and pointers of what to do and more importantly, what not to do. So we'll start out, you see that I have my apron on me. We'll feel lost without my apron. You're gonna hear us talk about that a lot. It's got some things actually in the apron. I've got a lint-free cloth. I have a dusting brush. I have a ostrich little duster here. So pretty much everything that I would need in this room, I will carry with me as I'm going around the space. Also, I want to point out that, again, this is your checklist right here. So there will be a couple of things that we'll talk about that are not on the checklist that are just as important, and they're just common sense type things that you need to be aware of. It's almost impossible to put every single detailed thing on the checklist, but again, we're hoping that's why we hired you, so that you could use some common sense in those areas and be aware of those things, right, Laquita?
That's right. Common sense goes a long way.
Exactly. Okay, so again, and you can also, what's neat too is when you have an apron and you wear an apron, again, I encourage you to do that, is you can also just keep that in your pocket if you have to refer to that. You cannot go wrong by just double checking yourself on the checklist. Okay, the items that you're gonna need in this area are going to be basically your clear power, and it dries clear. You're gonna need something, you're gonna hand dust 90% of everything. You'll use something like your high duster or a smaller feather duster to get like the detail types of things. You will also need some kind of possibly furniture polish. You may or may not use these things. You don't want to ever put this again on anything that's really, really dark and have too much of the product, because then it'll cause a lot of smearing and things like that. I have my room spray. Today my pick is lavender. I've got a microfiber cloth in case I decide to switch and use that something else, maybe like in the blind area or something like that. A couple of mop pads, and I have a dry duster, of course my vacuum, and my caddy and my mop. Okay, so a couple of things before we walk around the room are, if you notice and you look up, this is a vaulted ceiling. It's pretty high. This particular, even your mop pad will not go that high. This is about as far as you can reach right here, which is normally the normal height of like a ceiling fan. So when you have customers, and there are a lot of clients that do have high ceilings, I very much would recommend that you suggest to them, they can go to Lowe's or Home Depot or something and have a high duster on hand, so that they have a high duster that you can use specifically in their home. That's to prevent you from having to carry another item. That's not something that we supply. We do have that at the store, but we don't supply that for every single client. So they're only probably about $35 that you can get them, and then they have like the bristle brush on the end. So very, very handy to have, so you can get it and go. Another thing will be, especially if you are doing some possibly new construct type stuff or empty houses, that you have a step ladder of some sort. It can only really go 3 steps high. Anything above that, we'll have to talk about. We never want you to get on a 6-foot ladder or an 8-foot ladder when you're dealing with these high up type areas. So I want to make sure I preface that as well. Before we start, a couple things are going to be, when you're carrying your caddy around in this area, or any area for that matter, if you decide that you don't want to pull your things out of the caddy, I personally, when I'm in this area, don't necessarily, I'll put my caddy to the side, and I usually will have my items that I pick and choose what I'm going to use writing on my apron. So it's kind of like a rolling caddy. But if you do take your caddy in these areas, or any area One thing that you never ever want to do is ever set your caddy on furniture. You never want to set it on a table. You want to always keep it, if at all possible, if they have hardwood floors, it's a preference that you kind of keep it on more of the hardwood floor area, but always keep it on the floor. The reason being is because if you were in some previous area, usually it's in the bathroom when this occurs, you can get it kind of wet, and there may be just a slight residue of some sort. It doesn't have to necessarily be a bleach type product. It could be like tub and tile or anything else. If you have wetness of any sort and you need to kind of pay attention on the bottom of this and you lay it on something, you could potentially damage that area. Even though it may just be a small part of the area, it's not like you can just restore sometimes just that small part. You usually have to refinish everything. So that's just a potential hazard that you need to be aware of. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Laquita?
Yeah,
On those types of
yeah,
things?
just the things that Tracy had mentioned. Another thing is a lot of the girls, once they come in and get started and going, they really like to have everything they need. And like Tracy mentioned about having the step ladder in your car, because you will be doing all kinds of different cleans. It's a possibility if you wanted to go and purchase one of those high dusters for yourself and keep it in the car for you. You know, it's an investment in your business. It helps you to be more successful and be more prepared in every home that you go into. Just in case your homeowner doesn't want to do that or whatever, you guys can always, $35 is not very much to invest in being successful in what you're doing.
Absolutely. So this is, again, a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home. It should take around 3.5 hours to complete a home this size. I want to make sure I preface that so as you are watching the videos, you can kind of get an idea. I know it's hard to know the exacts, but the space and size that matters on the timing. In this area, it should take about 45 minutes if I didn't mention that earlier. And so when you add up, and that's why, again, you're going to kind of pay attention to your time. When you add up your time in each of those areas, you'll get to the 3.5 hours. And it does go by very quickly. So you want to make sure you're allowing enough time and you're not rushed by the time you possibly get to this area and you're like, oh no, now I've have 15 minutes left. If that's the case, that's on you. It's not the client's issue, it's your issue that you're gonna have to learn and hone your skills so that you get through the whole house in an appropriate manner. If there's some, that's gonna be in our next episode, that we're gonna talk about timing and pricing and things like that. But the main point is you need to be aware of each space that you're in and about how much time you're dedicating it to. And we have given plenty of time, ample time through just through knowing how long it takes in each area. So it's kind of down to more of a science part of things on the timing that it would take.
And we will talk more about that, but that does not mean that the first time you're in there that it will take that much time.
Right.
That you should, hold yourself to that time limit. What happens is, as a natural progression, by the third time you're in the same home, you will see that it has boiled down to about 3 hours and 30 minutes, 3 hours, 45 minutes. This particular home takes that much time. And you can time it from the car to the car. And that's adding in every single thing that needs to be done. But keep in mind that there is no time limit, especially first, second, or third time now. And we'll talk about a lot of that later. So we'll get back to that.
More to come. We're just gonna
yeah.
keep prefacing. Okay, so in this space, I'm looking at, let's just as an example say that I'm parked out in front of this house. This is the last room I'm doing in the house. I've done this side of the house, I've done the other side of the house, which was the bedroom, and I completed this area, and now, you know what, it's time for me to kind of wrap up, which is why we say this space for last. I'm gonna go around the room, I'm gonna show you, and you're going to kind of create at the end like an exit strategy so that you're literally moving your way till you get to the front door. And that should be the motion that the pace that you do and the motion that you do when you're going around the room, and your final thing will be obviously the floors and stuff like that. But I'm gonna walk around, I'm gonna show you, and then we're gonna spend a little bit more time on the right techniques for the floors, because again, the floors are very, very important. Most homeowners, it's not gonna take you a long time necessarily to go through and wipe things. It's going to take a longer time to vacuum correctly and to do the floors correctly, so I want to preface that. But as we're going along, I'm going to show you some of the often missed types of things. Okay, this has just a little, you'll see some homes like this, it has quite a few windows along this area. Now, no homeowner is going to expect you to go through and detail out every single one, but once again, you cannot just bypass this area. You're gonna have to carefully learn and open, and if you see that there's an issue with opening something, you need to make that clear to the homeowner that, oops, I can't, don't try to ever pull anything to break it, but you're gonna need to open these areas up and look. Hopefully it's just a simple, quick wipe. If you see that you're thinking, well, I think there needs to be some more space or more time spent on this, if the homeowner has not paid for the extra time, or you don't have extra time when you're done. Sometimes you're done 10 minutes earlier than what it's allotted for that house, and you may want to go back and check those things, but you always want to give more than what you're actually being paid for. And these things only take a couple of minutes. But you may suggest to the homeowner, hey, I noticed that all of your windows, I need to do a little bit more work on that. Can I come back maybe for a couple of hours and we do some more cleaning on that? You need to open these up. You need to go through and make sure that the blinds again they're not askewed or anything like that, but you're kind of checking. I always just take my finger and I check these. If one is kind of bad, they're probably all bad. And I look to go, that one looks okay. And I'm just checking. Again, if you're doing weekly or bi-weekly, now monthly is monthly, but if you're weekly or bi-weekly, the likelihood is you're just going to rotate through those types of things that you always have to check. If it's a one-time clean, if it's a deep clean, if it's a move-out clean, you must really pay attention to these areas. So you're going to do the same kind of concept. You'll look up high as you're going through. You're looking at baseboards. You're looking at cobwebs. We're going around the room. I'm just going to kind of point out some stuff. We have, you can start in the center if you want, but we'll obviously talk about that again. Over in this corner area in front of me, it's very, very dark. Everything is kind of lit up right here, so you can kind of tell there's a lot of shadowing, and you almost need to assume that there could be possibly cobwebs in these areas right here. But you'll kind of go through and you'll kind of almost do like a vortex thing. You're going through, and you're going to either end up in the middle, or you can maybe possibly start in the middle and then go around. You're looking up and down the whole time. Again, I have everything in this room. For what I would do, I have everything right here. I can carry this around. It's right here if I need it, pretty handy, but you're trying to make it as simple as possible. I'm looking at this right here. Mirrors get missed a lot. When you're dealing with a mirror like this, you need to absolutely hold. This is what in the clean team rules, when we were talking about, you need to steady an object and while you're using your other hand to clean the object. It's possible that when things are hanging like this, that it may just need a little bit more attention on holding it. So you need to hold and look. It may just be like there's literally just a couple of spots here. So I'm making sure. You just don't want to bypass it. If there's any spots, you get those. You're going along here. If you've got to do anything detailed, like on the inside, you've got your feather dust, you've got this that will actually pull that out. And what I do, if you pull something out and you're like, ooh, that's really dusty, I just simply tap and I get everything down into the floor. So that way, of course, you're gonna do your floors last. This area in here is notorious for cobwebs. This is a delicate duster. You can get those items. I'm feeling up here and there is a little bit of residue. If you can reach, that's great. You're just gonna give a swipe. You're going along here. Now, fireplaces have been actually a topic of discussion in the past, especially in the wintertime. Cannot suck up ashes into your vacuum cleaner. They're just too fine. It's just too fine of a powder. Once it hits into that vacuum cleaner, it's going to cause some residue issues. If a client ever asks you to do that, you absolutely, obviously have to make sure that the ashes are completely cold and you're not going to worry about anything melting, but you will have to take something. They should have something on hand. You're just going to have to go get probably like a plastic bag or something and scrape that and take the screen off. And you will want to kind of wipe this down too. Another thing that gets missed a lot are screens. But you can just simply take the ashes, put it into something like this little scoop, and then put it into a plastic bin and dispose of it. Don't ever suck up the ashes. It is okay to suck up maybe a few items that have kind of got into this little area right here. You should be looking at that anyway because it's notorious for spider webs as well. And maybe like wiping this piece piece right here. But I would say most homeowners don't expect you to do their fireplaces. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. If that becomes a topic of conversation, that's how you need to handle it. All right? We're moving along here. We had discussed before about this space. This is no different. This space right here by this fireplace is another example of a place that gets missed a lot because it's this little corner area right here. Notorious for having little roly-polies and all kinds of different things in here. And I see a few little items over there. Like I'm looking, I see. Okay, inside, you do want to check the glass right here if something's been splattered. We don't typically open these things up. If this was an armoire and it was shut, if the TV is inside of the armoire, yes, I'll give it a little spruce up. If there are personal effects in there, I'm not gonna just open up something and just start cleaning it. Example would be, obviously this is behind glass. There are some things in here like electronics. I'm gonna mainly get the glass. I'm not gonna necessarily do, and it could be just a quick wipe, but I'm not gonna go through drawers and such like that to try to go through all of this stuff right here. Front of the TV, never spray it. You're going to just touch it. There's something right here. You're gonna simply just get that item off of there, and it may just take a couple of little swipes with your cloth. Okay, going again, we're looking high. Things like this. This is your thermostat, your control pad right here. Just you're kind of looking for things like that. Dust loves to just accumulate here. Light switch cover. Then you got some items in here. This is a cat condo scratch pad. It's obviously kind of sitting here and it's blocking this item right here. I would strongly recommend on things like this, and again, you don't want to scrape anybody's floor, but you just gonna need to move it and make sure that you're getting behind these things right here. If it's a regular client, it's not something that it's not going to get bad over in the matter of like a week or two, but if you let it go for months and months, you're going to have an issue eventually, and it's going to accumulate, and dead bugs will create more dead bugs, and so on and so forth. So you need to kind of move those kind of items. We're going around. This is just a little hallway. You never want to. I see these little spaces that get missed as well. It's something that I could totally see. You came out of the bedroom, you were in the living room, and this little tiny space got missed. You're wanting to check things like the air vent return. It's very easy to just kind of give it a little spruce up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want it to have stuff dangling. And then any kind of webs in here, or anything that you might see that's an eyesore. Piece of furniture with a piece of glass. We've got French doors right here. I would be looking at these and looking at them and seeing what they need. Again, I'm not going to take something like this and just for the sake of doing it, because it's just another thing to do. I'm not going to sit here and keep cleaning these. If it's a deep clean, yes, I would. If it's a regular client, I'm just checking to see which ones need to be addressed. You got a tiny mirror here. The tops of any of this stuff need to be checked. You can quickly check it with your hand just to see if, once you run it across, you'll see if anything comes off. The front door gets missed all the time. You gotta do the front door. It's an eyesore. Obviously people will be parked out here, when visitors come, that's what they're seeing. Homeowners usually come through the garage, but they definitely don't want to be embarrassed if somebody comes to visit them and their front door is dirty. We have another light switch cover. We're into this formal dining area. You've got the top of this, you've got another set of blinds. On this set of blinds, I'm seeing tiny little blobs right here. I personally, that would drive me nuts. I want to get that. You don't have to spend an hour on this blind. You need to just take your product, the clear powder, or take it off very nicely, or a microfiber with that, and you just kind of sit here and hold this. You never want to push it and do that. You kind of just want to hold the blind and just take those little spots off. It would take me probably 2 minutes to go through all these little spots, but it'll look a lot better. And the other thing I would do, if I see weird things like that, I would let the homeowner know, hey, I noticed that there's these strange little splotches on your blinds, I don't know if it's bugs or what it was, I was just gonna let you know. Again, I always leave them with like 2 or 3 things that I noticed so that they know that I'm paying attention. This gets missed a lot when you're running to the bottom. The bottom of all of, and I don't know if you can see that, the bottoms of any windowsill are going to be the worst area. It's going to be the worst area for dust accumulation and bugs and something around, and you can kind of see there's some residue down there. You always want to get down there and look, and you can see there's actually more of that right here. Those things you can work on a little bit at a time if it's a regular client. You got to pay attention. This is notorious. We've got a space back here. Notorious for being missed because it is back here. It's blocked. It's no different than if you have like a couch here. You're not going to be pulling furniture away, but you are going to be looking. Your vacuum cleaner will have, it has the capability to just, that's why there's that hose part. It's just to take an attachment or something and just get in here. If it doesn't need it, it doesn't need it, but you need to check it. It may or may not need it. It may be something that you may have to do every 3 months. I'm looking at baseboards, I'm going along the top of this right here. You see a lot of times this little lip here can get nasty. You can just simply obviously wipe any kind of painting or anything like that. That's why you get in the habit of never spraying anything directly. You're just gonna take your cloth or you take your duster or something like that and just get that. I'm looking up here in the ceiling fan area, or I say ceiling fan, this beautiful chandelier area with the crystals, with the diamonds. I'm looking to make sure there's no dangling. Usually if you see webs and things, it's gonna be further up, or it may be on top. This is a cloth, this is obviously, it's a cloth, but to protect the actual table. Anytime you see like little crusties and stuff, you just need to just take it and throw it in the floor, or wipe it, or just take your hand. It doesn't matter, do something. Don't just leave the tablecloth like that and go, well, it's not a wipeable surface, and that just drives me nuts. It's the same way with runners and stuff like that. You just need to, like some microfiber will actually hold it, and you can just quickly wipe and get it into the floor, and then be looking at the chairs. The backs of the chairs should be on the checklist. It may be under when it's talking about dining rooms. I'm just checking real quick to make sure this is done. I've had several clients that have noticed that about backs of chairs that don't get done, and you're looking to see if there's anything like the legs of any of these tables. Every once in a while you need to check that. Okay, we're moving on to the corners. Here we've got again our high ceilings, looking into the crevices and things like that. You've got, I'm kind of going this way, and now I'm thinking I'm going to kind of go in the interior. So I just kind of did a swipe of the exterior, and now I'm looking at these pieces of furniture. You've got this beautiful crystal. We have a story behind this lamp, by the way. If you catch this, you may want to ask Laquita about the story. I'm checking for any webs in here. I'm checking this part right here. I'm looking underneath this to see if there's anything. You never want to, pull something aside if you need to move it. If it looks like it's really expensive and it's heavy, do not move it. Don't touch it. Just leave it there. It's no big deal. Anything like that that looks like it's an antique, that looks very fragile, absolutely do not touch it. And it's okay to even tell the client, hey, I was gonna let you know, I noticed that you have it looks like you have a Tiffany lamp, a real expensive lamp, and I used my duster on it, but I just kind of didn't feel comfortable about really doing a whole lot. But again, I've never had any issue with that. Somebody complained. This is leather. If this was an upholstered couch, I would be looking at the couch in general, especially if somebody has pets. It's not on the checklist that you're going to vacuum, that we vacuum. And we have had people ask us about, well, what do you do underneath the cushion area? That's something that if you have time to do it, that's wonderful. I think that's great. But I will tell you this, if somebody has a dog or a cat and I see dog hair, I'm gonna get the dog hair. There's no way I'm just gonna leave it like that. After working my butt off and cleaning the whole house and then not taking the 2 minutes to either vac or get or wipe the cat hair or crusties, or there could be like some little food crusties in here, popcorn or whatever it is. You need to get it, and overall that goes into the category of it should look neat and tidy when you're done. I would go through, check to make sure there's nothing that needs to be quickly wiped off. Even taking your hand sometimes and just scooching it into the floor is great. But I'm going through and I'm going to check out these. I'm going to straighten the pillows, and I see, like, for example, here I see this little spot right here. You know, your clear power is totally fine. You're not going to hurt anything by putting that on the leather. I would just get that little piece right there. It's just something that I saw that I see lots of things. But again, you see that it took literally 1 second to do that. No big deal. I'm looking here. I'm making notes before I even start the floors, what the floors even look like. So as I'm in these spaces, and wiping, I'm kind of looking and going, is there any, let me make sure, is there popcorn down there? Is there any dead bugs right here? So when I get to the floor area, when I'm ready to do the floors, I'll note that mentally that I need to get that. I'm kind of straightening, checking this, making sure this is okay. We have this table over here. You have this bottom part. The bottom part of the horizontal is what things land on. This gets missed a lot. And there may be some things. It's a quick, even taking like a duster, something is better than nothing to make sure the legs don't have, you know, dangling hair and stuff like that. The couch, chair, and then in the middle we have this. I was trying, the first thing when you walk into your room, you really need to check out the ceiling fan. If it's not bad, proceed. If it's really bad, which I would say unless you're the cleaner, but if you're doing it for the first time, it's probably pretty bad. Most people do not clean their ceiling fan. You need to do the ceiling fan first. As we talked about in the bedroom, if you miss that, if that's really nasty and you've gone through and you've cleaned all this and then now you're ending up in the middle and you're like, oh crap. The ceiling fan is really bad. If that does happen, number one, you're gonna remember that happened and you're probably not gonna do it again. But number two will be that on your duster, it's microfiber, so it shouldn't just send the dirt flying unless you send it flying. So you would very carefully, you can have your vacuum turned on and then take your wand when it's on and vac this off and then go again and just kind of simply just take a second and don't panic. But that's a way to do it without stuff going all over the place. You don't want it raining down. I recommend this for anything that's really, really dusty. You need to vacuum up as much as you can and you need to use your tools and vacuum this off so that you don't get it overloaded too. Once you get it overloaded, all you're doing then, again, it's like overloading your mop. You're just moving dirt all over the place. Okay, anything that I left out? Homeowner Laquita, on that part.
That part.
That you want to add, because now I'm going to get to the floor.
Not really, that was pretty thorough in my
Oh,
opinion.
good, that's good.
Very, very thorough.
So, but obviously, if y'all have questions, we may have left something out, and you can always ask. So on the
I will say
Laquita now does have something.
Okay, yeah. The only thing that I would reiterate is people really want, if they're home and they see you're cleaning their house, they don't see you get the chair legs and the table, like literally the table stand that the table's sitting on, they'll be like, she never does. She never gets. So
Right.
looking is great, but
And people will watch you.
They
whenever
will watch
you don't
you.
think that they're
and
watching.
the legs and the the
They'll be
bottoms
nice
of
to you,
things.
but they're watching.
Yeah, that's important.
Exactly. All right, down to the floor area. So, and to add, if for some reason, just real quick, if this does not reach something that you need to get in a higher space, since we're still, I'm wrapping up that part of it, this will go a little bit higher. So you have a couple more feet, maybe not quite 3, but you've got at least 2 more feet maybe of reach space, if that makes sense. So that you don't have to break out necessarily like the high duster or something like that. You do have this pad right here, and even if for some reason, hopefully you don't lose it, but if for some reason you don't have it, you can just use a dry mop pad. Okay, so if you've got to get something that's on the, even if you had to reach, or you went, oh no, I forgot, I switched vehicles and I left my duster in my other car. This is kind of your backup. There's no real excuse to why you're like, I couldn't reach that. I would say it's probably a deal breaker that if you make excuses that couldn't reach that ceiling fan, didn't have a high duster. This will definitely reach. Doing something is better than doing nothing. You're not going to try to put weight on that and bend that fan, but you have something other than your other duster, and you can see how far up you can go with that, even if you just have to swipe it like this. Okay, you never want to put anything wet on the texture or anything like that on the walls. And since I do have my mop pad on me, if you're coming out of like an area, say you decided, okay, my thing's gonna be, I'm gonna go from the kitchen into the living area, and you did not change your mop pad out, you still have your mop pad, and I see this all the time. And so I'm gonna really, really preface it, because it can be a real issue if you get in a bad habit like that. So let's just say this is wet still because you came out of the kitchen. Don't ever come into the living room and with a wet mop pad and leave it like this, and then it's taking you 20 or so minutes to clean this area, and your mop pad's been sitting there for 20 or 30 minutes. It's a huge no-no. it's a possibility that that mop pad can leave a permanent ring into the floor, okay? There's so many different kinds of floors. You don't know what kind of, you're just gonna assume that it's not finished, because some floors are not finished as well. They may be at the end of their duration with the polyurethane. It could be that if it's a slate type of floor or something like that, they're just real notorious about making rings and stuff like that. All right, so beware of that right there. Now, let's assume, without, you know, going into too much, but so that you get the point of what I'm talking about, I've got this turned on, and same kind of thing that you'll start at one end and you'll kind of make your way towards wherever you're trying to exit, okay? So, but for this, I'm just gonna, I look like I'm very cumbersome. Okay, I am going to personally go through and probably do a lot of, well, I guess I could probably go ahead and do this rug area first. In the rug area, you've got all this furniture sitting on the rug area. You should, now I will say, some furniture you're not gonna be able to get underneath it. This is an air-driven power head. There is a smaller power head. If you have a big power head, it probably will not clear this area. Don't ever force something and hit it and or scrape the top of your power head because you're trying to force it. You really need to just kind of look and see if you've got to dislodge anything, which you can simply just take this off. And if you go, oh, it looks okay, you're gonna have to check it. Same kind of way with underneath beds. And we didn't mention that when we were in the bed. It's not part of the checklist, but you need to pay attention to what's underneath there. I don't want you just sucking stuff up and you're not seeing what you're sucking up. We may have an issue with that. You may clog your vacuum or something like that, but just take a couple of seconds and look underneath here, because there may be, I've actually had people take popcorn and put it in an area that was inconspicuous, like right in here. Or they said, hey, we had movie night and my kids spilled the popcorn, and honestly, I just left it to see if somebody was gonna suck it up or find it. We get those tests from time to time, if you can believe it. It's not something that Queen and I do. We don't call the client and go, hey, can you test our girl out and see if she, this is just what clients do sometimes. So you need to kind of be checking really quickly. Especially if it's the first time, you only get a one time to make a great impression. So if it's a one-time clean, if it's a deep clean, you need to check underneath those areas and underneath the bed too, and just kind of use some common sense in that area. But I would do this area first, and then I would take my floor tool and switch it out after I backed, and probably start in that corner over here, and then work my way, as we discussed before, when you're backing and you are, you're kind of looking, I have this, usually I have a cloth on me, so I'm looking to see if I missed anything as I'm backing. That's my final thing. If there's a web or something, I can quickly you can even grab something with your tool like this if you needed to. At your fingertips, this will come off. If you need to suck something up, if there was something that you were, oh, there's like a little bug right here, let me grab it. On your way out, you're checking, you're going to head in a direction that's kind of out that way. As you get to this rug again, after you vacked it, you're coming along here, you need to lift up the rug on the edges. Obviously, you're not going to take this rug off, but you're going to you can either take your finger to start it and slide that tool and just kind of go underneath the edge right here. Huge pet peeve for clients is when rugs do not get lifted. We've already talked about that in the kitchen area, but what about in the living room area when you have all this furniture on top of it? You're gonna do the best you can, but you do need to, like this is a pretty good size edge right here. So let's lift, and I'm gonna lift it a pretty good ways. It's not gonna take, you're not gonna just try to sling it and then get dust all over the place. You need to be careful that you don't but it's got some stuff under here. If you're cleaning the client weekly or bi-weekly, it's not something you're going to do every time, but you need to be aware of this area right here. Especially when people have pets and you get hairs and stuff on it, on the edge line. Sometimes your vacuum doesn't get quite that edge, so you're just kind of paying attention. Underneath furniture. Now that's one of my personal pet peeves. You have this furniture here. The furniture is off of the rug. This couch right here, half of it is off of the rug. So you need to pay attention underneath this area. If for some reason your floor tool cannot slide, which it should, if it's too short and you can't, but this again takes 2 seconds, you need to switch, and you need to take, when you're gonna do your floors, even if you are mopping, I don't care how you do it, but this will get anywhere that your vacuum cannot get. Look how flat it will go. So if you cannot get it with that, and it's lowered, then you need to kind of slide this under and pull whatever it is out onto the floor and back it, or just take your hand. I don't care how you do it, but just don't let don't let it have like dust bunnies and dog hair and stuff accumulate underneath there. Okay, you don't realize it when some homeowners come in and they have a big living room and they walk into a room. Sometimes it's such a big area that you could literally see under the furniture from certain places in that area. It's such an eyesore that everything else looks pretty good, but you've got this accumulation going underneath the chairs and stuff. Very much an often missed item. Going out. Okay, so we vacked everything. I'm kind of heading towards the door over here. I'm pretty much done with my vacuuming. Now I'm gonna do my mopping. Again, another item that you can get underneath right here. Okay, so I'm ready to mop my floors. I still have my apron on. I still have, we'll pretend, I'm gonna grab it real quick, that I have a cloth on me. The 2 items that you're gonna need will be, actually I missed an item, but you're gonna need this is real wood floors right here. This is not like a laminate type of floor. So you're gonna probably, depending on what the homeowner wants, but if they don't say that they suggest, there's 2 recommendations. One is gonna be the Bona floor care, which you will have. For real wood floors, if you try to put this on a laminate floor, it's just gonna smear it all up. It's gonna look bad, okay? And you're gonna have to learn how, if you have a question and you're like, I'm not sure if it's laminate or engineered or what to use, you need to make the phone call so that we can make sure that you don't make more work for yourself. This product, most homeowners know about the product. It's a safe product, it's safe for pets and all that stuff. So the only thing will be, depending on the kind of polyurethane that they have on their floor, if it's a high gloss, this may be too smeary looking possibly. It all depends, but we have it so that when we need to use it, we use it. The other option would be the Clear Power. Again, it goes clear, there's nothing in here that's gonna hurt anything, it's not gonna hurt the floor. There's no acids, there's no ammonia, there's nothing like that that's in this product that's gonna hurt the floor. If you have raw wood floors, and that's usually gonna be in a pretty old house that they haven't gone through and put a fresh coat of polyurethane. You have to be very careful because anything that you put on the floor is gonna absorb into the floor. There's nothing there to protect it. It just will absorb. And that's why, in part, why some of those older homes have a smell, because a lot of that odor is trapped in the wood. So you've got one or the other that you can select. For the purposes of this being real hardwood floors, I'm gonna go with the Bona. You need to check with the homeowner on if they have a preference, if you get to talk to them. We're considered professional, we market ourselves as professional, so people are actually, and they should turn to us instead of you going, well, I'm not sure, I don't know. You need to do your research and know exactly what you're saying when you're suggesting certain things, because they may come to you and say, hey, I would like for you to use, this would happen years and years ago when I first started. A lot of people were still into the waxing, what was it called? Laquita. The floor stuff that people would use. It's still out.
That orange glow, are you?
No, it's not orange glow, but some people use that. But it's a mix that people would use for, it's a soap.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
That
It's a wood soap, a wood cleaner soap. It's like a wax. It had a wax in the ingredient, and it was a wood soap. I know somebody's gonna know when they watch this what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's still out there, and some people are kind of old school and want it. The thing with that is it's not the soap in general that's the issue. It has a wax, so what happens over time is people were diluting it way too strong. And so what happened was they would use it and then they would use it, and then 5 years went by and they actually had to redo all you cannot strip that stuff off. You have to resand all your hardwood floors. So there were very expensive homes using this particular product. I'm like having a brain moment, which I do that a lot. And ruining their hardwood floors. So what you don't want to have happen is a client says, hey, I just want you to use this. And then you just go, okay, sure. And then you've been cleaning their house for 5 years and they go, well, I didn't realize that it did that. Did you know that it did that? You want to make sure you understand how the products work. Wood floors are probably one of the most expensive items in a home that somebody has to refinish. So that's why I'm making it a point about that. Any types of, obviously marbles, if people have marbles or granites or things like that, to replace those things are very expensive, and you just want to take pride in the fact that you know what is what, and you can kind of make sure that if they really, really want you to use that product, that you dilute it correctly. You don't just go by whatever somebody's telling you to do.
Murphy's Oil.
Mercy, that's what it is, Murphy's Oil Soap. I'm not saying it's a bad product, I'm saying that people were diluting it incorrectly. Using the product incorrectly is the number one mistake that people make. It's and there's some other things associated that people, as far as harmful chemicals, but we're not getting into that. I'm just saying when you're putting stuff on people's floors. So yes. Anyway, so we're gonna use the Bona. Now, when you're looking at the hardwood floor, the sunlight comes in a certain way at a certain time in people's area. They may see something from a certain perspective, but if all of this furniture is cleared out, you're really going to be able to see a pattern if you were to have too much water on your pad, if you use too much product, if you don't go with the grain of the wood. So my point is, this grain of this wood it's going basically this way, and it's going towards like the door area. So when you go to use your mop pad, your mop, so you'll see we're gonna move this out of the way, and we're gonna pretend that is wet. You'll put just a little bit. You don't need to go, a little bit goes a long way. You don't need to use a ton of product, especially on a floor. Hardwood floors are typically, they're not necessarily, if they have polyurethane, they're gonna endure pretty well, but you don't need to use a bunch. The whole point of doing polyurethane is you don't have to use a lot of product. A little bit of water and a little bit of product. The main thing that you're looking for are like blotches, like sticky stuff, those kinds of things. And you're making sure that you change your pad out quite a bit so that you don't get, again, you're making debris and you're causing a more problem on the floor than anything. You'll just put a little bit down. You can, this is full, it's a little bit heavier. You can ride it right here. What you don't want to do is you don't want to ever do this. Put your product here and cause it to leak or any other surface, okay? You're gonna go with the grain of the wood. You're gonna go with the grain of the wood. If you were to go like this and you're going opposite, the potential thing that could happen is in a wide open area, this was all moved out, the sun's coming in, you could possibly see this happening in the floor, and it looks really, really bad. It looks like you zigzag. It could potentially leave some marks behind if you don't go with the grain of the wood. It's the same way with any other wood thing. If you're on a cabinet or something, you want to go, you don't want to make it look like you did this swipey thing right here. You want to go with the grain. Okay, so I'm looking for any kind of sticker, any kind of gunky in the floor. Some people, it just depends on what the issues. I've actually had some clients say I only want you to spot mop, but in general we do a really thorough cleaning of the floor, so you just need to make sure they have a special request. If you do see something like, I don't even know if that'll come up, it looks like there's something here. If you see something, you can't necessarily, most of the time when you're doing this, you're just getting obviously surface stuff that is very minimal. If there's something crusty on there, you can always just take your foot and bear down on that and just kind of give it a little and then it took it off, okay? That prevents you from having to reach down a lot. You'll see that. But if you were to just go through the process of and you're not paying attention, you're hey, what's up? Or you're talking to somebody, you're gonna miss a lot. Floors get a beating. That's why they hire us, because people don't have time to do their floors. It takes the longest time of anything that you'll do in a common area like this. It's going to be the floors. By the time you vac them and mop them and you're paying attention, it's gonna take the longest amount of time, okay? So if you see anything, a sticker or anything like that, again, huge pet peeve for people to just bypass it and go, oh, I couldn't, the mop didn't get it. That's a great way to get the client to be very unhappy. You will do about a 10 by 10 area. This whole area right here would take 3, and you kind of have hopefully gotten a sense of how big the space. It's not a huge space, but it's going to take at least 3 mop pads to get through this space. Do not ever just keep mopping. And this is the bad habit I've seen, is they mop, and then get my stuff out, and then, okay, well, I gotta finish mopping, and then they just keep on one mop pad and just keep going. It's not good, and it's embarrassing if a client comes home and here's what ends up happening. They see some kind of sticky in the middle of the floor that they knew was there, and that's why, again, they hired us. And then they go and take a paper towel or something, and they take it and they go, yeah, I mean, I noticed that they didn't get that area, and then they wipe it and it's filthy. Doesn't look good for us. That's why you have to have very good habits and processes in place, so that if you are ever asked about it, you can say, oh yeah, our process is, we're paying attention, we use this product, we change our mop pad out several times. Some girls or staff have gotten to the bad habit of buying those squirt mops. I'm not saying they're necessarily bad, but it's the way that they're used. It's a convenience, but it's really not, because I don't see the mop pad being changed out. It does no good. I see the squirt mop, choo, let me go. Yeah, I'm glad it saved you time, but it's a bad result because you get in the bad habit of not changing. The whole point is you have to change this out. We have different mop pad. This one actually has probably done its time. You can kind of see it's a little shriveled. It's done its time when they get this way. But we have different colors. It doesn't matter what color you use. It's pretty much, you see the difference between this one and this one. This one's ready to be tossed or used, maybe, can still be used maybe in like deep, I'd say probably empty houses or something, or a situation that's really, really nasty and dirty, versus this is a newer one. Same thing, just they look a little bit different. There is another mop pad that we have that has a little bit of nylon in it, and that's great for like tile and things like that. Again, you're wanting to make sure you check for any type of, you don't want to leave any type of water type residue behind. You'll be amazed when you finish and you walk back, and I have this happen every single week at a client's house that I go to. She has I don't know, it's a big house. It's a 10,000 square foot house. So every week I walk through after I clean the floors, and I'm like, I see this and I see this and I see this. So just because you went through the process doesn't mean it's necessary. You've got to go back and take a second look. It happens to me every single week. There's some crusty on the floor or something I see that it just didn't get it, okay? We are going to go over then the final reminders. Let me put that back real quick of your checklist, just to wrap this portion up, if I can see. Okay, so we've gone through all the rooms. We showed you the bedroom, the bathroom, the master bath, which obviously it's the same for all the bathrooms. We've talked about the square footage. We've done the kitchen. We're in the common areas. We will, and just briefly, talk about deep cleans and prices and stuff like that. But these are reminders, a couple of reminders that to wrap this kind of segment up on the cleaning part. Number one, when you get into the house, you need to act like I don't care if you're having a crappy day or not, you need to act like you're happy to be there. Smile. You don't realize how that will change your attitude. It'll change in the perspective of the client being there. It's shocking to know that most clients feel like when they call, they're already feeling like, I don't know, I'm having somebody in my house, they're not sure. And they're always, number one thing is to see what your attitude's like. So you want to smile when you show up. Plugins. Okay, we've had a few issues with plugins. Some people go get them at Bath and Body Works. They can look kind of weird, or the way that they're plugged in, they're kind of plugged in backwards than some of the other big box store type of plugins. You have to be careful. If you are to, I try not to ever take a plug-in out if I don't have to. If you take a plug-in an oil, and hopefully you understand what I'm saying, that's in the wall. You're gonna pull it out, it's got oil in it. You're gonna take it and you're gonna set it exactly right there. Don't ever take a plug-in and set it down on a table. It will leak and it will ruin the surface. I've had that happen 3 times. I actually had a situation where in this house, somebody pulled the plug in and they flipped it upside down and it ruined the baseboard. And they did it 3 times. And I kept saying, hey, please pay attention because you're taking the plug-in out and you're flipping it and it's leaking oil all over the place. So, I know.
Most homeowners are not gonna put up with that 3 times.
Yeah. So, exactly. So, you've got to pay attention to plug-ins, okay? And the oil, you're going to, we already talked about vacuuming underneath furniture and rugs. You're going to manage yourself professionally. Obviously, if there's anything that you feel is strange going on in the house, you need to call the office immediately. Keep your, okay. And this is important. When you're in a home, if you come into a home, they may have certain accent lights that they like on whenever they come. I'm not sure, but don't leave every light on the house on. That is a huge pet peeve, especially nowadays with energy and prices going up. Nobody wants to come home to every light in the house. So be very aware of that. I see that happen quite often, and I've had it happen to me before too, where all the lights were left on. Also, now, understandably so, it's hot outside. Some people will turn their air conditioner, they'll turn the temp up while they're gone. You just kind of need to make sure that you feel comfortable about adjusting the temperature, but you absolutely have to turn it back to where it was on the temp. Okay, they don't want to come home and you turn it down to 68. Huge problem there. But again, with the just because somebody can afford to have their house cleaned doesn't mean that they're not, respectful of their money.
So do turn the lights on while you're cleaning.
Oh yeah.
Turn them off when you're leaving.
Yes. Okay, well, hopefully that was a common sense thing. Okay, anything such as the TVs and stuff like that. A lot of people have, they have the smart TVs. They maybe have it programmed when they come in. I'm not sure. They may have it on a certain channel every time they come in. They click it and it goes to, I haven't had this issue recently, but just make sure you don't mess with anybody's electronics and stuff, okay? And definitely, that people don't want to come home and they're like, oh, I guess it looks like they've been watching Netflix while I was gone. And exactly. Double check your work. That's a common sense thing. Like I just said, you need to go around the room. You need to leave. Last thing I always do is I will kind of give it a little spritz on my way out, a little bit of room freshener. Prepare for your clean the night before. Make sure that your cleaning cloths are absolutely your flour sacks, your linen, your microfiber you can't do on too high of a heat, but you just need to make sure all your stuff, that you're not having a bunch of debris and stuff spilling your towels. Everything is nice and dry and you're not taking wet stuff into somebody's home. Check all your products. Do not hit baseboards and stuff with your vacuum. It's very, very important. See that too often. Make sure the house is secure. Do not let the animals out. Now, you may have a client that has a dog and they go, well, while you're there cleaning, do you mind letting the dog out? I'd probably just take it a step further and make sure before you let the dog out, make sure that it's secure in the backyard wherever you're letting the dog out, because even though you're just doing what they told you to do, if something happens, it's always going to look bad. It's going to look bad on you and everybody else. I've had cats that have been let out before. I've had people quit the service because people were not paying attention to what they were doing, and as they were taking their products or loading their stuff up from their car and they left the door open, the cat ran out or the dog ran out or something like that occurred. Okay, so you need to pay attention and you need to make sure that the house is, however specifically is. If you unlock something and you go out a door, and make sure you're cleaning the door, just pay attention and make sure that back door is locked. You have to get good habits, and so that way if something ever were to occur and you were questioned about it, you know that's just it's hardwired into your brain that you do that every time. Like, oh yeah, that's just something I always do. It's just something I make sure I do. And then normally you would go out of probably the garage area, and you don't want to lock the homeowner out if they. Some people don't have a key to their house from the garage, so you just want to. It's just common sense stuff. Were you going to say something?
Well, yeah, there you may have.
Yes,
I was going to. Yes, you may have a client that says they have an escape artist cat. people freak out, as you probably do, about your pets. They're like their children. If they say they have an escape artist cat, you better make sure before you leave that cat did not get out. And make sure it's back in before you leave. They're really kind of hard to find. Sometimes cats will follow you in the closet, and if you lock them in the closet, that's a bad deal.
This is true. I've had that happen where people, our cleaners will, like this store right here, they'll go clean a room and they'll shut like the doors to the bedrooms after they clean them. But if they've got pets, and some people really, homeowners, if the door wasn't shut like that when you came to clean, don't shut the door. They may kind of think that's kind of weird, I don't know, or they want to be able to, they're kind of wondering like what happened in my bedroom that all these doors are shut. And maybe just circulation, maybe they don't like that, it's just a pet peeve of theirs. But yeah, make sure you don't trap any of the animals, they'll have panic attacks or something and come home to a shredded bed.
Yes, yeah.
Or pee, they may pee in their
Pee
bed.
in their, yeah.
Okay, take snacks and food and water. When you're in somebody's home, you need to be able to feel comfortable in their home. Most of the time we don't, our schedule's a little bit different, so while you have some time, you could in between obviously stop and grab something to eat, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're in a bigger home and you're there during lunch. So if you need to take your lunch, then take your lunch or whatever you're gonna do. What you don't ever wanna do is obviously go through somebody's cupboards. I haven't really had that as an issue. But some people may offer you stuff. I just personally take a snack pack if I know I'm in a deep cleaner, I'm going to be there a long time. And if you need to sit down at their bar area and take a break for 15 minutes, then do so. Sometimes I'll even have snacks in my apron, and I have maybe a drink somewhere located in my caddy type of area. But I'm working along and I'm continuing to keep going, because we don't just stop, and you should never stop, go have lunch and come back to a house. That's a huge no-no. You never leave the house insecure, or not secure by doing that necessarily, because people are counting on you to be there a certain time. But you need to be comfortable, like I said, in somebody's home, and you're gonna burn a ton of calories. So what I don't wanna have happen is you're there and you're like, oh, my blood, you've been cleaning for 2 hours, you're like, oh, I'm starting to go downhill, I'm starting to lose energy. That is gonna happen. You gotta have good protein, not a bunch of sugary stuff or a bunch of energy drinks. It can be problematic. Okay, limit your phone time. You should not be on social media and posting about Facebook and all that stuff. We'll go over some more of that. Be on time, obviously. We have a 24-hour guarantee. If for some reason the client needs us to come reclaim, they have 24 hours to call us and say, hey, come back. We'll get some more into that. Last couple things here are, if somebody needs professional window cleaning, that would be inside and exterior and all interior windows. We're just there to do and check and make sure, like the window sills for the most part, and maybe just a quick wipe to get that residue off of there. If you're seeing it's gunky and stuff, we do refer somebody, so you can do that. I highly recommend that, because sometimes we've gotten sucked into people going, well, does that include this, or what does it include? We have somebody for that. Carpet cleaning, some people ask about grout cleaning or spots in the carpet. Those things are extra, things like the inside of the refrigerator and the stove and stuff like that. It is part, when you go look on your checklist, and that's why I'm mentioning it since we're wrapping up the checklist, is that you'll see kind of some notes down here about that. You'll just call the office and communicate those things. So with that,
Good job.